This is Two Grown-Ups and a Mouse, episode number 13. Today we will be talking about rides that are no longer at Walt Disney World, designer Disney handbags, and Remy aboard the Disney Cruise Line, but specifically the Disney Dream.
Everything Disney, in and out of the house. Two grown-ups and a mouse.
Hi there, I'm AJ.
I'm Andrew.
And you are listening to Two Grown-Ups and a Mouse. Welcome.
Welcome.
Hi there.
Aloha.
I can't think of any other languages because, I do American Sign Language and that doesn't translate well over a podcast.
No, not really.
Not exactly, because I can't see that I'm saying I. But most people know I, because you just kind of wave. So, thank you for subscribing. If you did that, I can't even say it.
You can't say the word subscribe?
Apparently not.
All right.
Subscribed. I guess I can. Thank you for subscribing. And if you haven't,
please subscribe.
yeah, why not? Why haven't you? You should.
Rate and review.
You can listen to us not say the word subscribe.
Right.
Or at least not say it well. Actually, there's a lot better things you can listen to with us. You can listen to us talk about Disney.
Right.
That's why we want you here.
Yeah.
We want you on social media.
That's probably why they're listening in the first place.
I would think so.
Not to listen to you butcher the word subscribe.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
Yep.
Two Grown-Ups and a Mouse.
That's right.
Or our website.
TwoGrownUpsAndAMouse.com.
And of course, you can find us on your favorite podcast system. iTunes, Spotify. Andrew knows the name of the rest of them.
Yeah, all the rest of them.
All the rest of them. They're also on the website. You can.
Yeah.
There's links to them on our website, but you can listen anyway, whatever is most easy for you. Today, we are going to talk about rides that are no longer at Walt Disney World, designer Disney bags, and the restaurant Remy aboard Disney Cruise Line on the Disney Dream. There is also one on the Fantasy,
Right.
but we went to the one on the Dream, so that's the one that we will discuss. So I think I'm ready to start talking about it.
I hope so. We're recording.
Oh, well, then it'd be a good idea if we started talking. So let's start talking.
All right.
There are a lot of rides and attractions that are no longer at Walt Disney World,
That's right.
but we're just going to reminisce about a few of them
Sure.
because why not?
Right.
It's kind of interesting to see how things change.
Right.
Actually, I think in the last episode number 12, I believe we talked about how things change.
Right.
It was either 11 or 12 we talked about it and how people get upset. And personally, not that I don't miss certain attractions, like that double negative, not that I don't, but I like change. I like to see improvements. I like to see things move forward.
Right.
So it doesn't bother me as much as it does some people because change isn't always bad.
Well, change is part of life, and of course, part of Disney.
Yeah, we can even make that analogy. I mean, do you want to look like what you looked like when you were 3 years old? I don't think so. That'd be kind of gross.
No, probably not.
To be 30 years old and looking like a 3-year-old? So change is generally good. So one of the rides that changed is Snow White's Scary Adventures. Do you know when that left?
2012.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what replaced it?
Well, there's a princess meet and greet there, but it's really made space for Mine Train.
Exactly, yeah. Physically, the princess meet and greet is what replaced
Right.
Snow White. But that's only the physical location. I think of, and another disclaimer, I'm sure we could be mistaken, but I think that the reason they opted to get rid of that particular attraction is because they were building Mine Train. So they didn't need two attractions with the same main character.
Right.
So,
Yeah, from a theming standpoint, it's kind of hard to say, well, there's Snow White over here and Snow White over there.
right.
So,
And of course, the Snow White Scary Adventures was similar to the other attractions where it's just telling you the story
right.
from the movie. And you would go through and you would see it. And I remember riding that before they closed it down. And I was not really a fan.
Well, it was a basic ride.
Then again, I'm not really a fan of the movie. It's like Disney's first
shame.
movie. Yeah, I don't care for it. I mean,
Technically not his first movie, but
well, one of the first though, wasn't it? When it was just Disney, not when he was with Universal.
But even then, he still made a bunch of it. The reason it's famous is it's the first. I believe the line is it's the first feature film. The other ones were shorts.
Okay.
And
So
I
I misspoke because I didn't say it was his first feature film.
right. And the other thing that's very famous about it is he won an Academy Award, and they made all the little statues for the dwarfs.
And you used to be able to see those at Hollywood Studios.
Right.
I believe they moved them.
Well, they took him out to make the Saving Mr. Banks movie, and then they probably went somewhere else in the archive. So
Somewhere.
yeah.
But no, I appreciate Snow White. I definitely appreciate it, but it just wasn't my cup of tea.
Sure.
But then again, there's a lot of movies that are Disney that I appreciate, and I may even wear clothing with the characters
Right.
because they're cute. But that doesn't necessarily mean I love the movie or it's one of my favorites. Just if something's cute and it's Disney,
Right.
then I don't mind wearing it.
But one of the other big things, and then you'll see this all over the parks now, is one of the reasons they like making these meet and greets, whether it's princesses or some other character, and they stuff them into a building, is they can run a character meet and greet basically all day long, as opposed to the ones you see, at some random place in a park where it's only from 1 to 2 and then 3 to 4, and then they have to build in spaces in there. Here they can basically just run them, keep on going.
Because they're slave drivers, because it's a character, and that character is the same from morning till night. Because they would never change, or use a person to represent them. That would be horrible.
Right. And you can stuff more characters into one of these spots, and you can scratch off 2, 3, 4 characters in one setting.
I am sure that the cast members portraying these characters are eternally grateful for the meet and greet areas, being that they are air conditioned, or on a very rare occasion heated,
Right.
because Florida does get cold fronts.
Sure.
They're few and far between, but we've been up to Disney World before when it's been in the 30s.
Yep.
And due to the humidity, that's a really cold 30s.
Sure. Yeah,
So-
so having them indoors is
Oh, yeah.
no rain, no hot weather, no cold weather, no nothing. So
Exactly. So that is a good point about that. So yeah, so Snow White's Scary Adventures left us, but it was replaced with that meet and greet, and of course with Mine Train, which when Mine Train came out, a few people were a little bit disappointed by it because they were expecting a roller coaster.
right.
And it is, but it's a kiddie roller coaster.
For the most part.
If you have your expectations set, then you won't be disappointed. As long as you realize what the intent of the ride is, it was aimed
Right.
towards younger children, then you can say, oh, okay, it's all right that it doesn't have any drops.
Sure.
Though you would never know that by looking at the pictures that get taken of me, because I always forget there's no drop, and I prepare myself
Hold
for
on
one.
for dear life.
Yeah, let's move on to the next.
I think we'll have to post one of those on Facebook, on Twitter, or Facebook.
Yeah, we
or
should,
something.
because it's really as bad as I'm saying.
Yes.
But let's talk about another attraction that is no longer there.
Sure.
Kitchen Cabaret.
All right.
That was in Epcot. Do you remember Kitchen Cabaret?
I do not.
Veggie, veggie, fruit, fruit, 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 fruit.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah, whatever. So that was replaced by Food Rocks, which is also no longer there. But I remember we went to a D23 event. I don't remember which one it was, but I was able to purchase a veggie, veggie, fruit, fruit t-shirt.
Right.
So we do have a veggie, veggie, fruit, fruit t-shirt. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that. And in fact, I remember veggie, veggie, fruit, fruit, but did not at the time remember that it was called Kitchen Cabaret.
Sure.
So that was about healthy eating, and it was one of the more educational
Right.
attractions inside of Epcot. But that is no longer there. And you know what else is no longer at Walt Disney World?
What?
The Skyway.
Well, there'll be a new and improved one soon.
Okay, but the old Skyway,
Right.
which they were gondolas. And
it was only in Magic Kingdom.
right. I mean, it's funny because when we were looking up what's no longer there, the article that I read was saying that the lines were long and people couldn't get there. But you've also heard hearsay about how people fell out.
You know, I think that's an urban myth because I never saw an article, because Disney has to release any injury reports and all that, and I never saw one referencing it. But obviously you had to deal with trash being thrown out. Maybe people are clearing their mouths of extra moisture over the sides.
Right. There's not so much control over that. But the new, it's not a new Skyway, but it's a new system. Mm-hmm. What's the new one called?
I don't remember, but that's more of a...
That's going to be a much bigger car that's going to hold a lot more people. I mean, it's still a gondola style transportation.
Well, it's going to be... It's obviously bigger than what was in Magic Kingdom, because Magic Kingdom was like 4 people max, and honestly, it was really more like 2 people max.
Right. They were very small little cars that you would fly over the park. But
the ones coming out of the hotels that are going to... Hollywood Studios and that area, they're not going to be that much bigger. They're still quote unquote individual size. It's not going to be like we've always lived on the East Coast, but like, you know, if you're on the West Coast in the big mountains, sometimes you have a gondola that holds 20 people or 40 people or something like that. That's not going to be what these are. So
it's going to be interesting to see how busy they're going to be when they first get put up, because you know there are going to be people that have to be on it the first day. Well,
yeah, and we'll probably be we won't be first day people, but we'll be sort of somewhere around there. But I did see a interesting rumor that there will be no air conditioning.
That would be very uncomfortable.
So I'm sure they know what they're doing, but on the face of it sounds really weird. So
well. The monorail doesn't have air conditioning, does it?
They do.
Doesn't feel like it sometimes.
Well, they don't go crazy with it, but it's still there. The noise you hear in the background is one of our cats.
We only have one cat.
Oh, that's true.
It's our cat. Her name is Carrie. She's playing with a toy.
Right.
Which is really funny because she doesn't do it all that often. And we're recording and she decided that now would be a good time.
Sure.
It's kind of funny.
Well.
So we digress. And it is kind of funny, though. It's actually very amusing that the cat decided to do that now.
Right.
Another ride that is no longer at Walt Disney World, however, they do have the equivalent ride at Disneyland, is Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Right.
Here's a fun fact. Do you know where you can find an homage to Mr. Toad's Wild Ride at Walt Disney World?
Well, it's a dark homage, but he's in the cemetery outside of the Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, it is a little on the dark side. But yes, you know, people complain about Mr. Toad not being at Walt Disney World anymore, but he is there because he has a tombstone.
Yeah.
If you wait in the queue for Haunted Mansion,
you will see him.
You will see him. You can go on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride at Disneyland. We were at Disneyland quite a few years ago. And we did go on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, so that was kind of neat.
Yeah.
And do you know what that was replaced with?
Winnie the Pooh.
Yes. Winnie the Pooh is pretty popular.
It is.
And they have upgraded that within the past few years, which honestly could be 10 years, but, you know, time flies. But
the big thing
they have the play area there.
Well, yeah, they upgraded the queue.
Yeah.
To be more interactive. So instead of just standing there, you have a few little things to distract people with.
Right.
Probably because it's very popular with kids, obviously. So
young kids.
Young kids.
It's a ride that's geared towards young children. It's one of those rides because we like to try everything once, but it's literally one of those rides that we rode it once and we said, okay,
right,
been there, done that.
Well, we rode it a lot. We rode it a couple times. Well, one time we were with friends, so we waited in line. And it's also one of the rides where you'll see characters make appearances in the queue. Every once in a while, you'll see Tigger walk by or Pooh walk by and interact with the guests in the queue.
That I don't remember.
But we also rode it a couple times when at the D23 anniversary event. They had just a couple rides open in Fantasyland, and that was one of them. So we could ride that and Peter Pan and.
Well, that's a different story. We didn't have to wait. I mean, it's the type of ride that we won't wait for. However, of course, if we went with friends that had kids.
Sure.
We have no problem doing the attractions that are geared toward children
Right.
when we go with, friends like that, because why not?
Sure.
I mean, then it's always fun, but for just the two of us, we could live without it. You know what else I could live without?
What?
The extraterrestrial alien encounter.
We went on it because we started going to Disney in 2003, 2004. So I think we rode it once.
No, we did it at least once.
Well, it's not even, you don't even ride it. It's more of a sit and show kind of thing. But we did it once and then it changed.
But to me, it didn't really change all that much.
No, it's even today, it's basically the same show, except for they replaced the extraterrestrial with Stitch.
Exactly. Who is still an extraterrestrial.
Well, yeah.
But yes, the alien encounter left in 2004, and that was replaced with Stitch's Great Escape. And let us go back, because I don't think we said Mr. Toad's Wild Ride left Walt Disney in 1997. The Skyway was gone in 1999. Kitchen Cabaret left in 1994. And we did say Snow White left in 2012.
Right.
But Stitch's Great Escape is now open seasonally. Sometimes we go and they don't have it working. And it's kind of unusual because Stitch is such a popular character for merchandising. I mean, a lot of people love him. Right. Personally, he's a good example of a character that I like the merchandise and I like wearing attire. I have a purse that looks like Stitch, which is funny because that'll lead into the next section.
Right.
We'll get to that in a few minutes, but I do like the way he looks. But from the movie, I mean, he's a little troublemaker and I'm not really a fan.
Right. Well,
so it's kind of funny how that is. But being that he is such a popular character, so many people like him, it is a little bit surprising that that attraction isn't open all the time. However, you can see Stitch at Ohana.
Right.
In the Polynesian. Well, I can tell you exactly where I met Stitch. I was waiting for you inside of Tomorrowland.
Uh-huh.
And I was over near the restrooms.
Right.
There's a wall, which I might be confusing the two walls over there. But there's a wall on the side of the restroom that is closest to Space Mountain.
Right.
And it was just an empty space. So I was waiting for you and Stitch walked by.
Sure.
There were literally two people in front of me. So I was like, okay, I'll wait. I don't mind waiting when it's only two people. And I got a picture.
And that actually goes back to the Skyway because that was where the terminal was for Skyway in Tomorrowland.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Because it was empty and it was basically the second floor of where that restroom is that you're talking about. They kind of tore the restroom part, or they tore the roof off of it. But that whole empty area that you're talking about was part of the...
Well, when I said I might be confusing myself because I don't know if that was maybe before they put a face painting. Because I think that there's face painting there now.
Yes.
Okay. That's why I wasn't sure if I was thinking of the right area. But I mean, I can have the picture. I know exactly because I was wearing a black shirt and a black hat and I had the cooling towel that we have a tendency to forget. It's in the hotel room. We bring it with us every trip, and then we forget to bring it into the parks. It's kind of amusing.
Wow.
So I do remember the picture. I can envision the picture.
Right.
And that was when I was waiting for you. But the last ride that is no longer at Walt Disney World that we are going to discuss, again, because there are lots of attractions that are no longer there, is If You Had Wings, which was then called Delta Dream Flight and then called Take Flight. Because If You Had Wings was sponsored by Eastern.
Right.
Then the Eastern ended.
Eastern went out of business.
Yeah, that might have had something to do with it. It's quite possible. Right. So then Delta sponsored it. So it was called Delta Dream Flight.
Right.
And then when Delta's sponsorship ended, that is when they called it Take Flight. That attraction left in 1998 and was replaced with my favorite attraction, Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin.
Right.
I really like Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin. So I do not really miss If You Had Wings. I mean, I put it on the list because I like what replaced it.
Well.
So it's like...
Even though you get soundly trounced by me in Buzz Lightyear.
Shut up. That's not nice. I have hit 999,999 before. Not on both. Not in the left and the right.
Both cars.
I know how to do it. I know what to aim for. I know that what the targets are that are 100,000 each, but you can't always get the gun at the angles you need them to be at in order to attain that.
I can. So
apparently, you also play a lot more video games than I do, and you have a lot better shot.
In fact, I think I'll share my secrets with everybody on Instagram, and then everybody else will be able to post their 999,999 scores to us.
No.
Yes.
No.
That would be nice.
They can post their scores, but I don't want you to make a spoiler for people that don't want to know and want to find it on themselves. So if they want to know what the secret is to get that score, they can send us feedback or send us an email and say, hey, can you tell me what it is?
I guess.
And this way there won't be any spoilers.
Fine.
Aha.
I'll do that.
Yeah. So
you just don't want so many people beating your scores all the time.
No, I don't mind sharing it, but you know how I feel about spoilers because, if I wanted to find it out on my own, I wouldn't want someone to spoil it. So yeah, we can talk about it and we can, make mention of it on Instagram. But yeah, if you want to know what you need to do, or not what you need to do, because there's probably other ways that you can attain that score, but we can tell you where some of those 100,000 points are to aim for.
Yep.
Because I think we can find pictures of it. We won't necessarily have our own pictures. We'll have to credit other people.
Sure.
Either that or the next trip, maybe we'll take pictures of it so that we can actually show them what we're talking about.
Right.
Just like, this is very visual, but it's okay. Our next subject.
Purses.
Designer Disney handbags. Andrew's favorite.
Yeah, so I'll be, wake me up in the next segment.
Yeah. You want to know the sad truth?
What's that?
You've bought me about a third of them.
I plead the fifth.
I wouldn't say half because I've purchased more recently, so I don't think you're at half anymore, but you definitely have purchased me a large number of them. So
I know not what you speak of.
Mm-hmm. As everybody knows, we don't have kids. So because we don't have kids, my purses are my babies. I do have a lot of purses.
That's actually disturbing.
Well, I'm just saying that we have that the discretionary spending can be spent on purses because we don't have to worry about doctor's bills and school uniforms and all those bills that are associated when you have children.
Right.
But we don't have children, so instead we spend the money on ourselves. Now, probably the most known designer bags for Disney, I think even people that don't really realize that they have them, they've probably heard that there are Disney Doonies, Harveys, Kate Spade, and at a lesser price point are Loungefly and Danielle Nicole, because they sell all of those in the parks. But they also there's a company called Kathy Kidston, which I believe is out of England.
Right.
Kipling, which, the backpacks, Le Sport Sac, and JanSport have all recently come out with designs, because sometimes Disney has a long-term contract with the companies and they can come out with multiple designs. Sometimes they come out with specific releases, and an example of that would be Disney X from Coach.
Right.
They'll do Disney X Mickey Mouse or Disney X Minnie Mouse, which was only an outlet release. The Mickey Mouse one, there was a regular Coach store and then an outlet release. But in those cases, and I've seen Coach do it with other licenses because, they had a Snoopy release. What they'll do is they have their license agreement and they'll release the products. And when they're done, they're done.
Right.
It's just, it's really over a matter of maybe 2 months at the most, because they release them. And then after a couple of weeks, they put them on sale. And after a couple of weeks, they put it on clearance and they're done.
Those are the Coach ones.
That's for Coach. Right. But they do something similar with Vans, the shoes. Right. They'll come out with a release, and then when they're done, they're done. But then they'll come out with another release. Of course, I'm not in their legal department, so I don't know what their contracts say. I don't know, behind the scenes, maybe they know, hey, the next one we're going to do is this. The next one we're going to do is this. But they announce them one at a time.
One of the important things is that they're all a little different, because you'll see like the coach stuff and the van stuff you're talking about, you generally don't find in the parks, but you find at a coach store, a van store, online.
Sometimes you can find them on property at Disney
right.
Springs, but
There's a coach store and there's a van store. So
is there a van store?
Is there?
I don't know. But
Maybe not.
I think there is a store or two that sell Vans products,
Right. But they're more they're not being sold by Disney, as opposed to like you mentioned the Harvey. Well,
Right.
Harveys is again Harveys is different because they're both.
Well, Harvey is recently, because we're recording this in September,
Sure.
and the Nightmare Before Christmas is celebrating their 25th anniversary. So Harvey's did a Nightmare Before Christmas release. And they've done Nightmare Before Christmas previously. There was a release, years ago. There are still some Nightmare Before Christmas items out there.
Right.
But this release is specifically to commemorate the 25th anniversary.
Right.
And the way Harvey's does this is they are an American company. And if you purchase a Harvey's product, you get the little card that says American made, and they give you other cards you can pass out to your friends if they like it. So
I have many Harvey's products.
Exactly. See, you can't make fun of my purses because you have a whole bunch of Harvey's wallets.
Well,
but Harvey's is in California, as I said, and they have a release party. So they will release their product on typically, I'm basing this on prior releases I've been made aware of. They'll have a release party on a Saturday.
right.
And honestly, people camp out maybe 3-4 nights in advance, just like for concert tickets and stuff.
Sure.
Because it's that popular. So they have their release party at the store, and at this one that, again, it's happening at the same time we're recording this, they closed their store at 2:00 that afternoon because once the party was over, they opted to just close the store.
Right.
The following Sunday, the next day, the store opened regular hours, but you could not buy Harvey's merchandise.
Right.
The Harvey's merchandise is then available that Monday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific time or 11 a.m. Eastern time online.
Right.
And you have to hope to have fast fingers if you want to make sure you get what you want from that. So
Right.
Harvey's, they're a little bit different because that's how they will do it. And then maybe a few weeks or a month or so later, you'll probably find some of those items in the park, but you never know which ones are going to make it to the park or which ones they're sold out,
Sure.
or if they're going to release other silhouettes. The silhouette is like the shape of the bag because you can have a crossbody, you can have a tote, you can have a wristlet.
Right.
There's many, many, many other shapes. I'm just saying ones that people should be familiar with as I describe it. So you never know what they're going to be, but all of the purses, whether they're Dooney's, Harvey's, Kate Spade, any of them, they're a lot of General Disney. More recently, I've seen Pixar, but I want to say the Dooney Pixar purse that came out within this past year when Toy Story Land opened.
Right.
That's the only Pixar purse, fully Pixar purse that I've seen. I don't want to say it's the only one out there because there's probably something I'm not aware of.
Right.
But
No, there haven't been many.
But I stopped myself because there might be some Pixar characters when they do the mixes, like if it has villains on it or if it has princesses on it, there might be a Pixar character thrown in there, or there might not.
Right.
So I don't want to misspeak. But they've done Marvel releases and Star Wars.
Sure.
Personally, a lot of my bags are Star Wars. So what's funny is sometimes they announce that they're going to come out with these purses well in advance. Like
Right.
Dooney last year and the year before, they had a winter bag, very Christmassy, very red, green, and white. And I'm pretty sure those got announced well in advance because I've seen the bag for this year.
Right.
And we're in September.
Sure.
So well in advance, they announced it. But at the beginning of September, on a Thursday, they announced a new Haunted Mansion bag was coming out the following day on Friday.
Right.
So
Which led to a certain trip of ours.
Yeah, I think we might have talked about how we drove up there so I could get it back.
Sure.
I wanted to go to Epcot Food and Wine Festival. It was the first weekend. Duh.
Right.
Yeah. So that is, as a collector, it's a little bit frustrating that there was no advance notice because you want to know so that you can budget accordingly or prioritize what you want to get and what you don't want to get.
Of course.
But what's great about it is I am far from the only female that collects purses.
Right.
And as many as I have, and I admittedly do have a lot, there are lots and lots of women that put me to shame.
Right.
But what's great is if you are interested in designer Disney handbags, you might want to go to Facebook, because on Facebook you can find purse groups.
Right.
I'm in 3 or 4 of them.
Yep.
You know, some of them are just Dooney and Harveys. Some of them are Dooney, Harveys, and Vera Bradley, who is one I forgot. That's how many designer bags are out there. Vera Bradley, they recently came out with another release. Vera is not my style. They're very kind of flowery, paisley, lots of colors. So they're a little bit too busy for me, which is funny that I'm saying that, because a lot of my bags are busy, but they're different busy.
Right.
We're going to have pictures of some of my bags, or bags that I might have sold. So I might not own them anymore, but you'll have an idea of what some of these bags look like. But it's great because you can go on in join these Facebook groups, and you can admire them. Or if you have a lot like me, and then you start buying more, but you don't need all the bags. You can only use 1 or 2 bags at a time. You know, maybe use a little bag and a big bag.
Sure.
Put the little bag in the big bag. So yeah, you can use more than 1 bag at one time. But maybe you say, you know what? I'm not really using this bag. I'm want to get this new bag that's coming out. A lot of people are willing to buy them because, as we already said, the majority of these bags, they're one and done.
Of course.
Once in a while, they'll have patterns or styles that they keep around, and you can always kind of find them.
Right.
But a lot of them, they release them, and then once they sell out, you can't find them anymore.
Right.
But people still want them, so you can sell them in the Facebook groups. Unless you are a cast member. Cast members are not allowed to resell Disney merchandise. They can get fired for that.
That is correct.
So if you're a cast member, please don't join Facebook, and don't join a Facebook group and do that. But, and what's happened within the past few years, which on one hand is great, and on one hand is frustrating. As a buyer, it's great.
Right.
As a seller trying to get rid of older bags, it's frustrating. Mm-hmm. But, you can find a lot of the bags at the outlets now.
Yep.
And they're usually half price.
Right.
And as a buyer, I'm grateful because I purchased a bag that I had been looking at and contemplating buying, but I didn't need it. So I didn't buy it in the parks. And then I happened to go to the outlet and they had one of them. So I picked it up. I paid half price.
Right.
So I looked and I realized, even with pass holder discount, I think I paid $80 less for this bag than had I bought it with the pass holder discount.
Sure.
So it's great as a buyer, but what happens then is you might purchase a bag and then that style ends up getting to the outlet, and now you're done with it. You decide you'd rather have another bag and you want to go sell it, but people know that it had gone to the outlet.
Right.
And then you might not recoup as much money.
Yeah, the value goes down.
Right. But either way, it's a great thing to collect if you enjoy bags. And as Andrew already made mention of, there are products for men as well, at least with Harveys and Coach.
Right. It's not, there's not very much, but.
Right. I mean, the wallets, that you have a collection of Harveys wallets, and I have seen, actually, I know I've seen stuff from Coach that, shirts and stuff.
Well, I think they made a couple of leather goods, like wallets and that
probably,
kind of stuff.
But not as much as they have for the females.
Obviously, it's not a very, that's not their market.
But do you know that I have, and they've come out with a few of these, I have a Disney Dooney. Actually, I have 2 Disney Doonies that are Disney Cruise Line.
Right.
And I actually used my Disney Cruise Line Dooney when we went on our last Disney cruise.
Shocking.
And we went to Remy.
It's a very clever transition there.
You think? I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
So we did go to Remy on our last cruise. We've actually been there a couple of times. We've eaten dinner there twice. So we also did the Remy dessert experience, but I don't want to talk about that in this episode because honestly, that's a subject in and of itself.
Of course.
Even though it was at Remy, it was a totally different experience.
Right.
And it's wonderful. We have friends that just went a month or 2 ago and they were on the Fantasy. And I said, I totally understand if you don't want to do Palo or Remy this time, but they have something called the Remy dessert experience. And, that's a good way to get the feel of the restaurant without dining, for the meal there. And they loved it.
Right.
Absolutely loved it. But like I said, we'll talk about that in a future episode. The dress code for Remy is a little more than it is for Palo, which is understandable.
Right.
As we talked about, Palo now allows men and women actually to wear jeans as long as there's no holes in them. You know, you
Right.
can't wear jeans and sneakers, but you know, nowadays jeans, even in the workforce,
Yeah.
jeans have become very acceptable attire.
Well, we live in Florida, so it's a little different than up north where it's a little more formal still. Where
Oh, maybe that's what it is in Florida, though. I mean,
Florida's very casual in
yeah,
the workforce.
over the past 7 or so years, it's definitely gotten much more casual in most, and I shouldn't say most, it's just most that I've seen, you know, a lot of businesses accept jeans in their attire, and Palo does. Remy
Right.
does not. Remy
You should think of Palo as more, you can almost think of it as business casual, but with nice jeans.
right.
Because you still have to wear a nice shirt. You have to wear nice pants.
Right.
But that includes jeans now. Whereas Remy is still formal enough where it's a jacket required for men.
Well, Remy is the equivalent of the Grand Floridian at Walt Disney World, which the Grand Floridian is 5 diamond rated by AAA.
You mean Victoria and Albert's, not the hotel.
Oh, sorry. Yes, the whole hotel. No, yes, the Victoria and Albert's inside of the Grand Floridian. I apologize. Victoria and Albert's is 5 diamond rated by AAA.
Sure.
And I am guessing that the reason Remy hasn't been rated is because it's on a cruise ship. So they probably have a different rating system. Maybe there is some rating out there that we just didn't look into, but.
Well, the Scott Hunnell, who is the chef at Victoria and Albert's, is also created part of the menu at Remy, along with, well, they just brought a new chef onto Remy, was what we discovered on this last cruise.
Well, actually, not only did they bring a new chef on, but here's a little side story. They got rid of their plates.
Right.
So we had dined there before, and then we dined there on our last cruise. And towards the end of our meal, the restaurant manager, I believe it was, came over to us and said, "You've dined with us before and we want to give you this gift. We have this new chef." And because we got a new chef, we also got a whole new set of plates.
Sure.
So they gave us a charger plate.
Right.
And it says Remy on it.
Yeah.
So it's out in our living room. We have it on display because it was a really nice gift. It was like a really pleasant surprise, you know, and if we were going to have people over to the house, we could use it
Right.
to serve on. But that, you know, please do not expect to get a charger plate if you go to Remy.
Well, they're probably all gone by now too. So
Well, and I'm sure that they just come up with different reasons, you know, to give it to people,
Right.
you know, depending on the mood that they're in. And they were just happened to be in the mood to give us one that night. So we were extremely grateful to have gotten that.
Right.
But it is a prefix menu
Yep.
and it is $95 per person.
Right.
I believe it used relatively recently was 90 and went up to 95.
Probably.
But as it's probably, I don't want to know. It's not all you care to eat because it's just prefix.
Right. It's a whatever 7-course meal. I'm sure if you said, "Oh, that was delicious, bring me another one," they would probably do something like that, as long as it wasn't one of the upcharge items.
Well, the only thing you have to be careful about if you are on a budget
Right.
when you're dining there, because some people want to go there, but you know, that's most definitely a lot of money, you know, spending nearly $200,
Sure.
not including a gratuity.
Or the wine pairing, or
Right. I mean,
Right.
that's just the base price. Like if you said, I want to go there, but all I can really afford is that $95, just be aware they have a water menu.
Right.
And the water bottles averaged about $7 a bottle.
Sure.
And it was more than one glass. I mean, in general, it'll last you through your meal.
Right.
But, you know, if both of you get 2 different bottles of water, there's another 7. There's another 7.
Well, it's a restaurant you have to be aware, because unlike Palo, Remy has upcharges, which includes, because you can get normal water or you can get specialty waters, and that includes sparkling waters and normal waters, and then and it is funny because you actually can taste the difference between the different waters that they have.
I would hope so.
Obviously, but you never really think about that. But there is a difference there, but you can get normal water too. You don't have to.
Right. But I'm just saying, because I think the first time we went there and they showed us the water, like we weren't thinking about it, or
Right.
I don't remember if they even showed us the menu the first time, if they just asked us like, oh, will this be okay? And we were like, yeah. And then we get the bill.
No, they showed us a menu.
Oh, I just didn't remember it.
And
all
they
that much.
explained all the different, like I said, you almost think it's a joke, but you can sit there and ask them to explain the differences between water.
Right. Or which water do you prefer?
Right.
It was funny because Voss was on the menu.
Right.
And Voss is a great water. I don't have a problem with it, but I didn't get it because I've had it before.
Right.
So I tried to find one. I think I ended up with a Swiss water
Yeah.
because I wanted something that I haven't had already. I wanted something different.
And I think this last time we did a Scandinavian water. So it's
Right.
just fun. It's outside the norm, I guess. It's
Right.
kind of where there's a novelty there.
Right. But as you already said, there are additional charges, optional, of course.
Right.
There's nothing that you have to do. You could literally go in and just pay the $95 per person plus gratuity and be done.
And you will get an excellent.
Oh, most
excellent
definitely.
meal out of
Yeah,
that.
you don't have to do the additional
Right.
items in order to have a good
Well,
experience.
and in both times you didn't. There was nothing that you added on.
No, just the water,
Right.
because I'm not a big drinker. And in fact, once we might have gone to Victoria and Albert's and I might have done the wine pairing and I might have drank some of your wine because we spent money on this. I should finish it. And
Right.
I might have gotten severely intoxicated.
Maybe.
And decided I wasn't going to do that pretty much ever again.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, we
But that's a story for another podcast.
yeah, right. How I slept in the tub. What? What? Yeah. So I don't do wine pairings anymore because if you want, you can do the wine pairing, which is a set price, and
Right.
they'll bring you a glass of wine with each course.
Sure.
And, they're going to make sure that the wine that you're getting, each wine matches up with that course and pairs correctly.
Right. They have a sommelier.
Sommelier.
Yeah, that. I can never, ever say that word.
If you want to look it up, they'll tell you to pronounce it delicatessen.
I think so. That's how everything is.
Everything is pronounced delicatessen.
Exactly.
No, it's a sommelier.
They go through and they do an excellent job of pairing everything with the course that you're in. So it's definitely a good way to. It's also a good way to just try a bunch of different wines with your meal.
But if you're like me and you're not a big drinker, if
Right.
you want to buy it by the glass,
Of
that's
course.
not a problem either.
Right.
So, and actually, they give you a complimentary champagne
They do.
toast at the beginning of the meal.
And we should have wrote it down, but it's they actually have a special name for it. There's maybe on social media we'll throw a link up to the recipe because it's a champagne with some fruit with some other stuff in it, and it's a very tasty drink, and it is it's complimentary.
Yeah,
as
that alcohol is complimentary.
Right.
It's not a huge glass. It's just a
just a
glass of champagne. But
basically.
it's nice that they include that in the price.
right,
And I don't think we said that it is a French restaurant.
correct,
So the menu is French.
Right.
And the first time we went, they had a distinctive French menu and American menu. You
Right.
could order from the French or the American. The most recent trip that we took, I don't believe it was laid out that same way.
Well, this most recent one, yeah, it wasn't laid out because before it was strictly two menus, and that was, of course, you could mix and match if you wanted to, but
Right.
if you'd never been there before, you wouldn't know what to mix and match.
Right.
So it was two strict menus, and like I said, the one was done by the Victoria and Albert
You're
chef.
talking about the first time we went.
Right, which was a couple of years ago. Basically, all of this doesn't matter today because it's all different. But the one menu was done by the Victoria and Albert chef. The other one was by the chef that was on the cruise ship. And it was a French and American side. This one was you picked out your 7 courses.
Right. And they are very, very, very aware, and they very much want to make sure you enjoy everything.
Correct.
Because I had seen the description of something and I had a feeling I wasn't going to like it, but I ordered it anyway.
Well,
I don't remember what I didn't like. I remember what the
It was
replacement was.
it was a lamb in a
Yeah, that's enough. Because I'm not a big fan of lamb. I had it before, but
Right.
I said, okay, you know what? I haven't had it in years.
and it was in a very spicy. Well, not spicy as in hot, but spicy as in it was in a like a Middle Eastern spice.
I don't remember.
It was very distinctively taste.
I don't remember what it was. I didn't care about it,
Right.
but I just didn't care for it,
Sure.
which I was fine with because that's going to happen. You're going to go to a restaurant and you're going to try something and it won't necessarily be bad. It's just not to your liking.
Sure.
And that's what I told the server. I was like, no, it's fine. And he's like, can we bring you something else? But we have 7 courses. I'm like, no, I'll be fine. But then I realized that there was a lobster with a corn chowder.
Right.
Which was really weird because I didn't, when I heard corn chowder, which I enjoyed, and I heard lobster, I was like, really?
Right.
But that ended up being my favorite course.
Right.
So he was really adamant. He really wanted to do something. And you had done the Kobe beef edition, or not, it might not have been Kobe. It might have been the other.
Yeah.
But it was an addition, one of the add-ons that you
Right.
could do.
So I basically got an 8-course meal.
He had an additional course. So I said, you know what? Tell you what, when you bring out the extra course for him,
Right.
why don't you bring me some of the lobster or some? I asked for the corn chowder. I didn't ask for the lobster because the
Right.
corn chowder was phenomenal.
Right.
So I said, just bring me out a little bit of corn chowder. I'll be happy. And they brought out a full plate with the lobster and the corn chowder because they wanted to make sure that I was happy. They didn't charge extra for it. They were so upset I didn't like the lamb. And I was like, you didn't have to do it. It's really fine.
Right.
You don't always like everything you get, but
No.
they're really on top of that.
But there is definitely one thing that I'll say. I'll call it one of our top tips is when you go to a restaurant like Remy or Victorian Albert's, and really those are the only 2 that I can think of. Whatever they put in front of you, you should definitely taste, even if you almost shouldn't read the details of what the food is that you're eating, because, like you said, who would have ever thought corn chowder and lobster? And you're sitting there thinking, we're at a really fancy place, corn chowder? But it was a very, very tasty dish.
And this is coming from a gentleman who does not like green vegetables. Like vegetables in general. You're not a big vegetable fan.
Well, as you've discovered, we're both very picky eaters, just in different ways.
Right.
But when we go to these places, just take a big bite out of whatever they put in front of you, because you might not like the individual thing that you're looking at, but you're talking about the very top end professionals in food making, so they're going to know that food A and food B are going to taste a certain way when they're together, even though apart they might not seem appetizing. So it's one thing I always recommend when people go to like Victorian Albert's. I say, don't tell them, I basically don't like any fishes. So I just say, I don't like fish. And they won't bring me a fish, but pretty much I don't limit it too much more than that. So
Right. And whatever they bring, you taste. So that is
Right.
definitely a really good advice. They do have a server and an assistant server.
right.
Those gratuities are not included, which I mentioned before. It's $95. If you do the wine pairing or if you purchase any alcohol at the restaurant, the sommelier does get a gratuity is added on to go to the sommelier.
Right.
So just something to be aware of. They will explain this to you when you go to the restaurant. And again, we went, it was a couple of months ago. Things do change. So double check with them that that's still the way they are handling it. And it's fancy. I mean, for lack of a better word, I got up to go to the restroom. And as soon as I got up, one of the male wait staff saw me, put his arm out, grabbed my arm, and escorted me to the restroom.
Right.
And when I got back to the table, they had refolded my napkin. And if they catch me, they'll come and they'll lay the napkin out.
Right.
And of course, they have matching napkins.
Of course.
If you're wearing light colors, you get a white napkin. If you're wearing dark colors, you get a black napkin.
Right.
Because it's very important that your napkin matches.
Well, it's a very high end restaurant, and it's on the cruise. It's a good way to get a taste of that level of food for at least a little bit of a discount. Because if you go to if this restaurant were on land for 2 people without wine, you probably would be spending $300-400 pretty easily. So here you're going to spend roughly half that without wine.
Well, you're still going to spend $200 minimum.
Right.
190 minimum, not
But-
including the gratuity.
But it's right. But you're going to spend what's Victoria and Albert's up to now is like 130 or 140 a person or something.
It's at least 125. So
Right.
yeah, you're saving at least $40 because when you go on a cruise, you're paying for your food. Your food is included. So now you're going to one of their restaurants and you're replacing one of those meals that you've already paid for.
Right.
And that's basically why they don't charge you that same full amount because they're basically giving you a credit for the amount that you already paid for your meals.
Yeah.
So instead of paying 125, 130, you're only paying 95, but you're still getting the same quality service, the same quality food, the same ambiance. They have the wine rack is out. I mean, you can see all the wines that they have.
And you can pick your wine person's brain to your heart's content.
Sommelier.
Yes, that person.
And I don't remember in Palo, but in Remy, there was a musician
Yes.
walking around. That's never my favorite. And I was in band in high school. I enjoy music. I love music, but I prefer things that aren't as loud.
Right.
And whenever there's someone playing and they come over near you, it can be a little bit on the loud side. So I appreciate them and I respect them for what they're doing, but I prefer it when they're in the corner and
Sure.
not too close to me, so it's not too loud.
Right.
But I personally really enjoy going to the restaurants on the cruise,
Yeah.
Palo and Remy, where I am forced, because they have a dress code, to dress up.
Sure.
Having an excuse to dress up. Now, of course, that being said, you can take a cruise and it's your cruise. If you decide that you want to wear a ball gown every night, that's your prerogative. No, it's a Disney cruise. No one would ever say anything to you about wearing a ball gown.
Sure.
You probably get a lot of compliments and tell you what a princess you look like.
Well, that's more likely what's going to happen.
I mean,
Life is short, so make up good experiences whenever you can.
well,
so.
I mean, actually at this and we'll post a picture of this because I know we have, at this last restaurant, Remy Experience,
Right.
You bought me for my birthday the dress from the dress shop,
Right.
which was the Haunted Mansion tightrope walker dress, and it came with a cape.
Right.
It's a dress based on
Sure.
the Haunted Mansion stretching portrait
Yep.
area, the woman with the kind of bun holding the parasol with the alligator beneath her. So you bought me that dress, and I wore the dress to Remy that evening. Because we were going to Remy, I went to Sense's Salon. There's Sense's Salon and Spa aboard the Disney Dream.
Right.
And I made a hair appointment and I had my hair done. And the woman, who was very sweet, she said, asked me what I wanted. I said, I don't know, and she said, well, can I just do what I think, because I showed her a picture of the dress. And I said, sure. It was a very unique hairstyle, but it really matched the dress.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because she basically made me look like I was in the 30s or 40s.
Yeah, it was that style.
That-
But it's that style dress, and it was that style of...
Right. I mean,
Right.
so it was nothing that I ever would have thought of asking for. It was nothing that I would have
Right.
expected, but it really matched. Just to give you an idea of how I opted to dress for that
Sure.
particular occasion. And another time we went there, I wore a purple satiny dress.
Right.
Which it was also a Disney dress, but that one was more subtle.
Sure.
It didn't scream Disney the way this dress did, but it was appropriate for the occasion, and
Right.
I'm glad that I wore it because it gave me an excuse to wear it. That dress is a little bit fancier, and I was glad to be able to have a place I could wear it.
Sure.
But right now, I'm not going to wear a dress. I'm going to go put on some night clothes because I'm ready for bed.
All right.
So, on that note, thank you for listening.
Absolutely.
Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for giving us your feedback.
Yep.
We always look forward to hearing from you, seeing from you, finding out from you.
Sure.
So, and of course, as we said before, if you want to know how to get 999,999 on Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin, then you will need to write us.
Yep.
And we will provide you with that information. We will say, this is what you want to aim for.
Yep.
Because this is worth 100,000 points. But we won't post the actual tricks because I don't want to spoil it for anybody that wants to find out by themselves.
Sure.
So again, you can find us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and
YouTube.
2 Grown-Ups and a Mouse.
Absolutely.
Or our website.
2grownupsandamouse.com.
Yes. And of course, you can find us on the podcast systems, but you probably already did.
Yeah, I think so.
So on that note, I'm going to say goodnight.
I'm just going to say goodbye.
Oh, not good morning? Or good afternoon? Okay, goodbye.
All right.
So bye.
Bye.